Okay, wow. So about a year ago, I posted what are the best free art programs, and then seemingly stopped uploading for about a year. And now, I'm back again to explore what are the best paid art programs. Okay, here's how things are gonna work. Last time I did a video like this, you guys said I wasn't being objective enough and fair to the other art programs. So in this video, I've compiled quite the list of all the things that I think would make an amazing art program. Same as last time though, I don't want to change anything, so I'm scoring all the programs on how they are out of the box. But with that all of the way, let's get on with the video. Okay, so Clip Studio Paint. I don't think there's a better program to start off a video like this than this program. And ironically, I think everyone has heard of this program at least once, whether you're a new artist or a long-timer. Clip Studio blew up a few years ago for being built by artists for artists, which gives it a great feature set. And I'm not just saying that because it has a lot of features that I like. Clip Studio just has a lot of features in general. I mean, look at all these brush settings. It's actually crazy and awesome. Honestly, I love this level of customability. Clip Studio also has an amazing brush library. Not only does it have like a million settings, but it has a million brushes just built into the program. And if this isn't enough for you, Clip Studio has a built-in store that is directly supported by the community. This means that there's a million brushes, text tools, comic tools, literally anything you might need while you're drawing is just built into the program. This isn't something that I thought I needed, but oh my gosh, I do not miss having to search through a million forums and Reddit posts just to find the brushes that I need. When it's just built into the program like this, it's super convenient and accessible. And speaking of super easy and accessible, Clip Studio also has an amazing 3D posing software, something that I thought I would never ever use, but actually came super in handy when doing some more complex poses. You get a really robust toolkit. Now don't get me wrong, Clip Studio is an amazing program, however it still does have some small issues that I need to bring up, mainly being the cost. Clip Studio is definitely not a cheap program if you want to buy it outright, coming in at around $54 at its lowest, and as wallet breaking as $230 for the EX version. Now there is a way for you to pay for it as a subscription, coming around at $5 for the Pro version and $9 for the EX version per month. It also has a few other problems, like performance for lower end PCs might be a little dicey on larger end canvases, and that's without even mentioning the pretty steep learning curve. Clip Studio is definitely one of the more complex programs and takes a second to learn, but with time you can definitely get a hold of it and it can be a great program full of great features. Okay, and with that out of the way, I give Clip Studio a 40 out of 60 points, taking the top for best art program so far. It only really ended up having two bad scores, and that was the lag and stress test and the learning curve. Specifically on larger end canvases, even my computer ended up taking a bit of a hit when I tried to do any real effects options. And then the learning curve just takes a little bit to get used to. Once you've used the program for about a week or so, you could probably be using this pretty efficiently. But with that all out of the way, let's move things right along with Paint Tool Sai. Paint Tool Sai is like your old Honda Civic, or, you know, anything that's really just kind of too old and definitely should be replaced by now, but is also just super reliable. Paint Tool Sai is a great art program that I really hadn't heard of until I was looking around for programs for this exact video, actually. And I'll be honest, when I first opened the program and saw its general layout, I was not very impressed. Its UI is definitely a little dated and definitely looks pretty retro, which, I mean, to some, that might not be a problem. For me, it was a bit of a turnoff. Now, I was gonna say that Sai has a lot of customability, but in actuality, it literally doesn't. The program is stuck like this unless you want to open it in text editor. You have no pop-ups, and this is just the default layout. Now luckily this isn't a hard process to fix, however it's just weird to me that it's not built into the program and in fact you have to spend your time to go out of your way to fix it. While other free programs like Krita or Fire Alpaca just has this process built into the program. Now out of all these programs, Paint Tool Sai probably runs the best out of all of them, and it also helps that the file size for the actual program is so itty bitty that the files you're exporting out of it are most likely bigger than the actual program itself. So if you have a more lower end PC, this program is perfect for you. Paint Tool Sai is also the cheapest program we'll be reviewing today, being $52 as a one-time purchase, which means once you buy it, it's yours. Well, until Adobe buys it. Now moving along to the actual features that Paint Tool Sai has, it definitely doesn't look too good for the general program. Sai is definitely one of the more basic programs, being that it has a lot of, you know, basic features that I expect in any art program. It's not doing a whole lot special, and if really I wanted to get these same features, I would have downloaded a free program like Krita or Fire Alpaca, which are great alternatives to this exact program. Now that's not at all to say Paint Tool Sai is a bad program, it's just in comparison to programs like Clip Studio, where with its comic tools, and Photoshop with its photo editing tools, Sai just feels like it's missing something. Something that makes it not a free art program, something that makes it unique in comparison. Really, there aren't a whole lot of features that that aren't immediately given to you. Essentially, when you open the program, what you see is what you get, and there's not a whole lot more than that. And again, to some, that might be a benefit. It's actually super basic. However, to me, it just feels like it's missing everything that I'd want. Paint Tool SAI also unfortunately comes dead last in terms of community support, being a much more niche community rather than a program like Photoshop or Clip Studio, where there's plenty of tutorials out there. It's a little harder to find that same kind of community with SAI. I will say though, Paint Tool SAI has one of the easiest programs to learn. If you can use a program like Fire Alpaca or Krita, you will definitely have a very easy time learning Paint Tool SAI. The user face is actually very intuitive when you can get around how bad it actually looks. All the brushes and settings feel like they should be exactly where they are, so there's not a whole lot to actually learn about the program. And with a little bit of extra elbow grease on your part, you can definitely find almost anything to do with Paint Tool SAI. It has a lot of features. As much as I've been bashing on it, it is a still pretty decent program. It is, however, just a little easier to compare to a free program rather than one of these other bigger paid programs. And with that all out of the way, I was only able to award Paint Tool SAI a score of 21 out of 60 points, which is remarkably low, but when you really look into it, the score kind of speaks for itself. SAI ultimately better compares to a free program like Fire Alpaca or Krita, wherein that being, all the features that are in the program by default aren't really all that compelling. For a program that costs almost as much as Clip Studio Paint on its lower end, it really should have more features than this. Its lowest score ended up being in the tools section because, again, Paint Tool SAI has one of the most limited tool selection out of all the programs I tested today. Even free programs like Fire Alpaca and Krita have more tools than this, which is crazy for a program that costs this much money. And its highest score ended up being a score of 8 in the learning curve. Because of SAI being on the more simplistic side, it's actually super easy to learn and get a hold of. Its biggest negative ended up being its biggest positive. Because it's so simplistic and there's not many things to learn about the program, you can do essentially everything right off the bat. You can be a master of SAI in less than 5 minutes. Okay, and last but not least, we have Photoshop. And some of you might be a little confused on why this is here, because Photoshop's a photo editing program, right? Yeah, it's actually true. A lot of artists, including me, use Photoshop as their day-to-day regular art program. Some artists even going so far to say it's the industry standard of 2D art. And it doesn't just earn a title like that lightly. Photoshop earned that from being one of the best. And let's just be honest, there's a reason why most other art programs are able to export and import PSD files. It's because Photoshop is generally hailed as the king of all art programs. And because it's been so popular for so long, Photoshop has so many tutorials and brushes and add-ons just for free to the average person. And while yes, other programs have these same tutorials and brushes and add-ons, none of them can compare to the amount that Photoshop has. In terms of compatibility, there's no other program that can even compare to Photoshop. Generally, it's pretty easy to consider any brush or add-on as compatible with Photoshop just by default. And if you're looking for specifically brushes, I can almost guarantee that any brush you find will be compatible with this software. Because of Photoshop starting as an actual photo editing program and not an art program, some of the features it has are unmatched between any other art programs. Specifically, one of the first things that comes to mind are Photoshop's color corrective tools, things that are so necessary for photo editing and are also super helpful when drawing. Okay, and that's me done singing the praise for Photoshop, because it has a lot of negatives. One of the main ones I can think of is Photoshop is a photo editing program, so it doesn't have all the tools you'd want for a drawing program. Some of the things, like just having a perspective grid, are not built into the program at all. Also, Photoshop lacking any kind of support for vector art. It has some basic features, but most of it's limited to Adobe Illustrator as a different program. And also, probably the most glaring one, it's an Adobe program. It's expensive. Coming at the crazy low price of $38 per month, Photoshop is definitely one of the more expensive programs that I've ever seen and used. And finally, Photoshop ended out with a score of 34.5 points, coming in at a good second place. When looking at the actual points, Photoshop has one of the most even spreads throughout all of its scores, its lowest score being in the learning curve. Photoshop is a dense program full of a lot of features and tools, and if you don't know what you're doing, you can definitely get super lost. And its highest score ended up being in the community support. Because Photoshop's been so popular for so long, it has so many tutorials and helpful advice just all over the internet that it's kind of hard not to give it this section. But also, Photoshop costs quite the pretty penny, almost $40 a month. So that's a pretty big negative in my eyes, unless you're pirating it, but I would never recommend that. But what do you think? If you don't agree with any of my scores, the scoring system that I used will be the top pinned comment. So if you don't agree with me, feel free to comment down below what your scores are. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, it would mean a lot to me if you really subscribed and maybe commented or did all the cool things that people do when they enjoy a video, or something like that, I guess. I'm not going to tell you what to do whatever. You might be able to tell I'm a little tired. I am finishing this video at 4 in the morning and recording this last minute. You might also see some really cool fan art going across the screen right now. That's all drawn by you guys. If you ever draw any of it, feel free to DM me on Discord. I'm in the Skynix Discord, so probably find me through there. And yeah, I hope you guys watch another one.